The wind had died, leaving only the soft lapping of waves against the boat's hull. In the dim light of the dawn, an eerie calm had settled over the water. Murray's knuckles were white as he gripped the wheel, staring at the horizon that seemed to stretch endlessly before him. The Minch, a stretch of water known for its treacherous nature, was too quiet that morning and far too still. And then, just beneath the surface, something moved. At first, it was subtle, a ripple here, a shadow there, as if the sea itself was stirring to life. Murray's breath caught in his throat. His heart pounded. He squinted against the pale light, trying to make sense of what he was seeing. But when the water bubbled violently, a figure emerged. He realized there was no making sense of it at all. It was human yet not. Blue skin, slick, and unnatural. It caught the dim light, gleaming with a malevolent sheen. The figure's face was twisted, not in anger, but in amusement. Its eyes dark, and filled with something ancient, something dangerous. It floated there, not quite standing, not quite swimming, its webbed fingers brushing the surface of the sea. Murray had no time to react before it spoke, its voice cold and rhythmic, like the waves themselves. "Riddle me this, sailor, and you'll pass through unscathed, but answer wrong, and you'll be part of the sea, forever." He was frozen, staring into the deep-set eyes of the thing before him. The words, the challenge. This was no ordinary creature of the sea. Murray stammered out a reply, heart racing. But as he spoke, the smile faded from its lips. Slowly it began to sink back into the water, the blue skin melding once more with the waves, until the Minch was still again. But the silence that followed was heavier, more oppressive, and Murray knew in his bones he had only barely escaped. The topic of tonight's episode is the Blue Men of the Minch. The Blue Men of the Minch, which is spelled M-I-N-C-H, are no mere figments of overactive imaginations. Their appearance alone is enough to strike fear even into the hearts of the most seasoned sailors. They are said to be humanoid in shape, yet they are unmistakably otherworldly. Their skin is a cold, unnatural shade of blue, almost translucent in some reports, as though they are part of the very water they inhabit. Their limbs were long and thin, with the webbed fingers that dragged across the water's surface as they rise. Their eyes, deep-set and gleaming, are described as dark pools, black as the depths of the sea, yet alive with a predatory gleam. Their hair is often said to be wild, flowing like seaweed in the current, tangling and shifting in ways that seem almost alive. These creatures, though seemingly few in number, possess powers far beyond mortal men. They are said to command the winds and the waves, stirring up violent storms and tossing ships into chaos with a mere thought. But perhaps their most unsettling trait is their love of games, specifically riddles. Before they drag sailors to their watery graves, they offer a twisted chance at survival. Answer their riddles correctly, and they'll let you pass. Fail, and the sea will claim you. The Blue Men are most often associated with the treacherous waters of the Minch, a strait that separates the Isle of Lewis from mainland Scotland. Their presence here is documented in folklore for centuries, their origins shrouded in mystery. Some legends say they were remnants of a fallen race of angels, cursed to wander the sea until the end of time. Others whisper that they are the offspring of Selkies and other fae, their nature a blend of mischievous magic and cruel malevolence. They are believed to dwell in underwater caves or beneath the sea's surface, only rising when the waters are calm, or when they seek new prey. Unlike sirens, whose beauty lures men to their doom, the Blue Men's lure is far more sinister. They don't need to enchant or seduce. Their power lies in their command of the very elements, and their ability to stir fear with nothing more than a glance. Murray's account is chilling enough, but is far from the only tale of the Blue Men. For centuries, the Minch has been a place where stories of strange disappearance and terrifying encounters have been passed from one generation to the next. Each story has a common thread: blue-skinned figures emerging from the sea with a smile that promises nothing but doom. One such account comes from, this name is a little bit harder, Elid? E-I-L-I-D-H. We'll just say Lid. A young woman who, along with her father, operated a small fishing vessel off the coast of Lewis. Whoa, getting a little tongue-tied there. They had set out early one morning, the sea calm and the air crisp with the scent of sea salt. As they worked, a fog began to roll in, thicker and faster than they'd ever seen. Within moments, the boat was engulfed in a blanket of mist so dense they couldn't see the bow from the stern. But then came laughter. Horrible, horrible laughter. It had started as just a faint chuckle, drifting on the breeze, but quickly grew louder, more sinister, until it seemed to surround them. Elid's father called out, thinking it was another boat playing tricks on them. But there was no answer, only that laughter. Suddenly, the boat rocked violently. Elid stumbled and looked over the edge of the boat, her heart nearly stopping at the sight below. There, just beneath the surface, was a figure with blue skin and dark, swirling eyes. Its mouth was open in a wide grin, showing rows of sharp, pearly white teeth. Before she could scream, another figure appeared beside it, and another, and another. They circled the boat slowly, almost playfully, their webbed hands brushing the hull as they moved. Her father, trying to stay calm, shouted something in Gaelic. The creatures stopped, their eyes narrowing. One of them, a bit larger than the others, rose slightly out of the water and spoke. Its voice was deep, deep and cold, like the wind on a stormy night. It asked them a question, a riddle in the same twisted Gaelic Elid had heard. Her father froze, his mind racing, but no answer came to his lips. The laughter returned, louder now, as the creatures dove beneath the boat. Without warning, the wind picked up, howling through the fog. Waves crashed against the vessel, tossing it about like a toy. Elid held on for her dear life, as her father fought to keep control of the boat. And then, as quickly as it had started, the storm subsided. The fog lifted, and the blue men were gone. But the look of fear in her father's eyes told her that they had barely survived. Elid never sailed those waters again. Another tale comes from Duncan, a fisherman whose story is often told in hushed tones in local pubs. Duncan, he was out alone one night, his boat, small and ill-equipped for rough waters, but he'd made the journey countless times before. That night, however, the sea seemed different. The waves were higher, the wind a tad sharper, as if the air was warning them to turn back. He didn't listen, though. Duncan was a proud man, convinced he could handle whatever the Minch threw at him. But when the water around his boat began to churn, and the dark figures started to rise from the depths, he realized just how wrong he had been. First thing he noticed was their eyes, cold, dark, and filled with malice. They hovered just above the waterline, their blue skin glowing faintly in the moonlight. One of them pointed at him, and in a voice that sounded like a crack of thunder, it began to speak. The riddle it posed was simple, but Duncan's mind, it went blank. The pressure of the moment, the evil in their gaze, it was just too much. In an instant, the sea erupted. His boat was tossed violently, the waves crashing over him, dragging him into the icy water. As he struggled to stay afloat, he felt something brush his leg. He looked down to see one of the blue men, grinning as it circled him. Before he could scream, it grabbed his ankle and pulled him under. The last thing he remembered before blacking out was laughter, sharp, cruel, and echoing through the water. Duncan, he was found the next morning, clinging to a piece of driftwood, half conscious and muttering about riddles and blue demons. He never fished again, and to this day, he refuses to speak of what happened in the Minch that night. Perhaps the most terrifying of these accounts come from a man named Lachlan, a sailor who claimed to have encountered the blue men not once, but twice. The first time he was a young man, new to the sea and full of bravado. He and his crew were hauling in nets when one of them spotted something unusual in the water, what looked like a man floating, face up, eyes wide open. But this was no ordinary man. His skin was an eerie shade of blue, and as the boat approached, the figure's eyes suddenly blinked. In one fluid motion, it rose from the water, standing as if the sea were solid beneath its feet. Lachlan described the creature's face as gaunt, with sunken cheeks and thin lips curled into a mocking smile. Before anyone could react, it spoke, challenging them to answer its riddle. Lachlan's captain, a seasoned sailor, confidently answered. The blue man's smile faltered for a moment before he nodded, slowly sinking back into the water. The crew breathed a sigh of relief, but Lachlan could never shake the feeling they'd only narrowly escaped from something far worse than drowning. Years later, as an older and wiser man, Lachlan found himself once again in the Minch. This time he was alone. As dust settled over the water, he heard the familiar sound, that eerie laughter that had haunted him and his dreams for decades. And then they came, 3 of them rising from the depths with their riddles and their cruel smiles. Lachlan, now more prepared, answered their questions correctly, but the fear never left him. Even after they vanished in the sea, he knew they were always watching, waiting for a moment when he, or someone else, would fail. The Blue Men of Minch remain one of the most terrifying legends to come from Scotland's waters. Their dark, evil presence has haunted sailors for generations, a constant reminder that the sea holds mysteries far beyond our understanding. When they are spirits, fae, or something far older, and maybe even darker, one thing is clear: the Blue Men are not to be trifled with. They thrive on fear, on the desperation of those caught in their clutches, and they are always ready to claim new victims. So, if you ever find yourself sailing the Minch, beware the calm waters, for that's when they strike. And should you hear the sound of laughter, or feel eyes watching you from the depths, remember, your wits may be the only thing staying between you and a watery grave. Thank you for joining me tonight. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to like, subscribe, share it to a friend, and maybe even leave a review. There are always more legends waiting to be uncovered, and I'll be here to share them with you. Till then, stay safe, stay sharp, and be mindful of waters you sail.